All right. Okay. The first topic is going to be open world syndrome. And this is in direct response to this is in direct response. Sure. Hmm. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. I'm like repeating myself, so please don't kill me. There we go. All right. It looks like everything's working just fine. Welcome to the No Filter Podcast. This is being streamed on YouTube at Gamecast. And it is also being streamed here. This is the Gamecast channel, or Sir 303. And we got some things we want to actually touch on. Two subjects: open world syndrome, which is in a direct response to the Harry Potter game. And then afterwards, we're going to talk about microtransactions, which is in direct response to Sony and their what do you call it? Their Gran Turismo situation going on. There's been a lot of warriors, so to speak, that was talking about that, and the outrage, the typical outrage that we fucking see all the time. This is nothing new at all. Nothing new at all. So, without further delay, we're going to talk about the open world game, open world syndrome. Essentially, I wonder if I can use my phone. Did my other phone die battery wise? Probably. Well, ooh, 4%. Let's charge this bad boy. Let's see if we can find. See if we can find this shit on YouTube. Let's see here. Because I want to make sure that I have this shit going on, and that it's being streamed, and that it sounds great. Because you know how this shit is. You know how YouTube is. That shit be crazy. Funny thing is, I don't really see. There we go. There's something live. Let's see. Let's see what it sounds like. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, so yeah, that works. That is being streamed and that it sounds great. Shut up. So that works. So I was looking at the Harry Potter, right? The Harry Potter shit to me was interesting because it showed extreme promise, man. I've never I'm trying to hell Devil Shooter. What's going on, my broskies, man? And I finally got the chat to work. That was annoying because it wasn't working before. You know, it's funny because people remember when people were talking about how open world games were just AAA publishers have a hard lesson to learn. And of course, Microsoft says that shit. Yo, I'm actually on a website right now. Yeah, you know, this Elden Ring is fucking terrible, man. Terrible. I'm tired of hearing it. What I want to talk about is the Harry Potter. But do you guys remember when everyone complained about open world games, open world fatigues, right? And that it was just too much. It was just too much, you know? They just couldn't take too many open world games. That's what they were saying. And that's fine. But I definitely feel like people are fucking liars, to put it that way. I feel like, you know, people, because it's weird because open world games always sell. They always sell. Well, what I'm looking at here as I'm talking, I've learned how to multitask a little better due to my job. So I could kind of do two things at once. And my phone was slow as hell. Not my main one that I'm talking on now, but this fucking phone. This is my little backup phone. It's not that bad though, this phone. But what I'm trying to figure out, I guess I'm gonna have to run a search on it. I'm gonna have to run a search to see what this Harry Potter and what's in the Harry Potter. It looks beautiful though. Let me just say that it's beautiful, man. I was really shocked. It ain't the best looking one. Let me say, I hope we can fully explore Hogwarts like in the order. It seems to be one of those things, man. I think we may be able to. It looks like if you look at it, it looks like a massive game, man.
It looks like a massive game. But what's going on, Raziel, man? I ain't talking about shit right now, man. So I mean, nothing crazy. I was actually a little late because I was driving and I was actually going shopping, and I got here and I'm like, oh fuck, you're like time is flying like a motherfucker. Let me see here, Harry Potter. First of all, there was outrage in general, right? Let me see here, state of play about the chick that said something about I guess woman, I would imagine. So that was ridiculous. So what I'm looking for here, instead of looking at the, I wish I would have came prepared. So details. Okay, cool. That's what I'm going to figure out. I mean, you can actually see for yourself. Like it's beautiful, beautiful game. It looked like they're going to nail it out. They're going to hit it out the park, man. It looks beautiful. But the thing is, people claim to be sick of open world games, the same formulas, the same Ubisoft shit, right? That's what they claim. They're so sick of it. So I'm looking at Game Informer, and what they claim is they had a 14-minute demo. This was captured on a PS5. A few words from the developer, right? They said players will start by creating. This is new for me too, by the way. By creating a new Hogwarts students who begins this wizarding adventure in their 5th year. And we'll need to catch up on the other students in the grade. So that's a good way of kind of allowing entry, allowing learning the mechanics and stuff like that, which I've seen some pretty cool things, juggling and shit. You'll choose your house by sorting hat, of course, and enroll in the classes of Harry Potter fans are most likely very familiar with. The demo shows the charms, defense against the dark arts, heraldry, and potion classes, along with some other eccentric professor teachings at the School of Young Minds. Hogwarts is filled with mysteries like dungeons and secret passages or passageways littered around in hollow halls. So it seems like that whole, I guess what you would call it, what do they call that shit in college? Premise? I forgot. The whole like college premise or the whole school premise is explorable. Some areas require clever mind tricks, which is, different to classes, which is pretty cool. And he said, well, Hogwarts Leicester takes 100 years before Harry Potter novels. Some characters, like the lone dead spirit, nearly headless Nick, can be found roaming the halls. So they have a lot of homage to these places. Players will meet new friends in their time in Hogwarts, some of which will become companions. You'll learn characters' backstories. That's side quest, right? That's what that is. One such student is Sebastian, which had a troubled family past. That is so like fucking side quest. It is not all magical classes and friendships in the Hogwarts Legacy. There are rumors going around that the wizarding world of the Goblin Rebellion, if your students somehow are tied in, the footage shows spell slinging, which is weird because everybody likes like Elden Ring and shit. It's just kind of funny that, everybody that's Elden Ring is basically fucking Harry Potter, mature Harry Potter, which is funny. But you have that too. You see, it just remind me of it when I was looking at it. But better. Anyway, so they say stunning charms and shields, shield charms, and more damaging incantations, such as the Fiery Inferno, or Incendio, or Gravity Inducing Descendo. So you got a lot of fucking spells in this game. And I wonder how the AI system is going to work. Characters can be upgraded through talents and ability systems, which that translates into classes and skill trees when I'm reading this, right? And I'm going to tie all this together just to let you know. Using the experience gained from challenges around the world, further customization and improvements will come from gear looted. Definitely an open world trope, right? And then the adventures or purchase with your hard-earned gillons, sickles, or nuts. And that's the currency that's in the world. That's the open world currency where you can loot enemies that you killed for these things, I would imagine. Potions can be used in combats to boost power and defense. Plants can act as battle pets. Oh, yeah, companions, okay. Providing strength in numbers. Or if all else fails, stun an unbreakable shriek of a mandrake. So I guess what I'm looking at, when I saw the state of play for Harry Potter, it looked really involving. To me that looked like they were doing things that, they're pushing the envelope when it comes to like side quests or just open world games, and they're putting it into this world of Harry Potter. It'll be a go-to spot. Okay, so we caught a short clip of a broom riding and let you fly around open world and explore grounds outside the castle. You would travel to places like Hogsmeade, which houses shops and vendors. Shops and vendors for gears and crafting materials. That's so open world. Or visit unique wizarding hamlets that pepper the countryside and talk to residents and a magical or resident magical folk who reside there. The magical beasts can be found and rescued. That's again with the what do you call that shit again? Camps, bandit camps. And even more dungeons and votes can be delved into for rewards and additional adventures. So that's that in a nutshell. So it looks like they have a clear formula, right? Of what of an open world game, clear formula. And I asked the question, right? Because everyone sat there and said that they were tired of open world games. They were sick of open world games. And yet this thing, let me take a look at the amount state of play. I think they got a shit ton of people that actually watch this shit. So about 1.7 million, right? That's the amount of people that were interested in it. I believe the original one, let me turn this down. So that's the state of play. The original people actually, or the original trailer when they first showed it, it had like 21 million. So as I'm looking here, I'm kind of like fast forwarding the stuff. First of all, let me just say that the graphics are pretty cool, right? Then you got spells, which reminds me of Elden Ring, truthfully. You got you can go like invisible, so you got stealth. You know what I'm saying? And so you got stealth elements, like, you know what I mean? Like your typical open world game. So you explore, you rescue, you have bandit camps. You got a day and night cycle. You can explore the entire castle, but you can also leave the castle, from what I understand. I don't know how far you can go, is the question. How big is the environment? And to be honest with you, it's making me interested in it. But here's the thing that I will say about this shit, because a lot of people sit there and they complain about open world syndrome. That's the reason why I'm stating this now, because they super complain about open world. It's always a problem when it comes to open world games. And some people actually get away with having open world games. I mean, you got Breath of the Wild, which essentially had its towers, you know what I'm saying? Waypoints, which they had like a beacon of light. And that's fine to have. No one's like criticizing it. At least I'm not criticizing it. But why the criticism of other games and this open world syndrome? It seems like people, I don't know, they want open world games. You know what I'm saying? It looks like they legitimately want open world games. And I don't see a problem with it. I don't see a problem with it. We've had linear games the whole time, but I guess the thing is, it's so and I had this conversation with someone else. It's so dismissive to call a game a Ubisoft game because there's a particular formula that they supposedly made popular. Right? They popularized it. And then you got games like Zelda, which again, it had its little camps, it has little towns, it has little looting systems. But what it had that no other game had is the chemistry system. We're not talking about charm or anything like that, so we can leave that alone. They're tired of open world games when they have a narrative to push. Oh shit. Oh shit. They do. But why the narrative is the question. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's gonna lap this fucking Harry Potter game up. If you weren't interested in it, you will be interested in it. And it's not because there's an agenda that needs to be pushed. It's because it looks damn interesting. But going back to Zelda, right? Zelda incorporated the chemistry system. And you could play around with their physics and stuff like that. Oh, I forgot to fucking, man, I'm sloppy with it. Adam, yo, what's going on? Upper Room, what's going on? Retro Kim, what's going on, man? It had its chemistry system. You know what I'm saying? You look at Dying Light. They had their crafting and zombie system and parkour system, right? You look at what other open world games are there? Red Dead Redemption. I mean, they had their whole cowboy simulator. You know what I'm saying? So they had their camps and shit like that. But there was also the whole cowboy and taking care of your horse and systems going on. You had Horizon Zero Dawn, which was a very light open world game, but it had its ranged attacks and its battles that no other game really does. I mean, you can look at Monster Hunter, which would be the closest thing, but Monster Hunter is a melee-based system, and Horizon is ranged. So you can't quite say that they're the same, especially doubly so for Forbidden West. Got Grand Theft Auto. It's an open world game as well. So you have Grand Theft Auto is a little different. It's not necessarily camps or anything like that. It runs like a linear game, but it plays as an open world game with a day and night cycles and shit like that. So I would say Grand Theft Auto kind of bucks the trend a lot. The Witcher had its spells, but also had camps and everything like that, et cetera, et cetera. So now to talk about Elden Ring, because Elden Ring, it's not necessarily I'm shitting on it. Again, I can say this about Elden Ring. What it brings to the table, because if you look at Horizon Zero Dawn, that was so light in terms of a fucking open world RPG or open world game. You could barely consider that shit an open world game or an RPG game because you had such little things to actually go into. You had your little camps and shit like that. Like it had like all the check boxes, but every open world had its own flavor. You know what I'm saying? But Elden Ring, it's all about the builds, impatience, and memorization. It really is about the builds and their hyper aggressive fighting scenarios. Which are, if you memorize what the boss is doing, you can get a pretty good grasp on how to take care of it. And that's no problem at all. But I find it funny that there's so many hot takes on open world games. And then all of a sudden, like Harry Potter is like, oh my God, it's doing something new. It's not. It's not. It has its own flavor. I guess it is doing something new. Let me correct that. It is doing something new. It is. You call it that. It definitely is doing something new. You caught it. But even though that it's doing something new, I feel like the media typically, they downplay certain games. And I'm going to keep talking about Horizon Forbidden West because I fucking love the game. I love the fucking game. I like the game because it does things that no other fucking game does. And that tactical fucking combat that they have with the hyper intelligent AI, no other game is doing that in an open world game. The closest thing in terms of intelligence, it will be Grand Theft Auto. But these machines are stupid intelligent, and they really do have RPG elements. But yeah, every one of these open world games have their own flavor. And I feel like saying this shit too. Let a fucking game be a game. You don't have to fucking reinvent the wheel. A will is a will is a will. A game is a game is a game. An open world is an open world is an open world. And everybody got their own way of doing it. Like you get fucking castrated for even, you know, having something similar. Like not everything needs to invent the wheel because inherently that universe is a different type of universe and has its own rules. I never understood the narrative about never about open world games being shitty. And that they're tiresome. I'm sick of it. I will understand and I get maybe you have a life. So stuff like Elden Ring and to a lesser degree, Horizon Forbidden West and Zelda, they are massively time consuming. They don't want you to play any other game. And that's fine. It's totally fine. No one's getting mad at the fact that you can play a different game, right? I mean that you have a heavy investment. So some people just don't have the time to do it. You know what I'm saying? So be it. You may not have the time to do it. You know what I'm saying? So maybe that game is not right for you, or maybe you can break the game up in pieces. In Forbidden West, each settlement or town has a DLC worth of content. And there's a lot of different towns. I think something along the lines of like eight fucking towns, all fucking with their own storyline, their own lore, because in the Horizon, they all have their own interpretation on how or what happened in the world. And that's how they do it. And you can take the game in bite size. The same thing with Elden Ring. Even though you kind of have to learn, you can sit there and have a loot day, you know what I mean, or a farming day, you know what I mean. You can sit there and farm for whatever parts there are, or whatever the case is. But I guess my complaint would be in this case, right? I really hate, and I keep seeing this over and over and over again. I really hate the downplaying of an open world game. Because you have a fucking skill tree. If it gets tiring, then yes, it'll get tiring enough for people to, for the developers to change shit up. But it shouldn't be a criticism. Like, you know what I mean? Like, think about back in the day, we had platformers, right? You had Gex, right? Gex was one of them. Cool. You had Croc. You had Spyro, Crash, Jack and Dexter, Hurdy-Gurdy. You had Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong, Mario. All of those games were platformers. That was the platform era, right? And that's fine. That was great. But you know what happened in that case? I don't remember hearing. I did, you know what? I did remember hearing stuff was like a Mario clone or whatever the case is, but it was never in a negative fashion. You know what I'm saying? We used to. Oh, somebody said something. Devil Shooter. Okay, we can fully explore. Okay. Oh, you already said it. Okay, never mind. We had different takes. Gex had his one-liners. You know what I'm saying? And it usually just kind of copied pop culture, which would be funny as hell if they did some shit nowadays, right? You had Crash, we had the boxes, right? And shit like that. You had Spyro, which had what was the currency there? The crystals, right? You had Donkey Kong and Banjo-Kazooie, respectively. They had their own collectathon. But one thing you always had with all these games is they all had collectathons. And they all had an element of platforming, right? No one crucified them for having platforming. Oh, I'm just platforming you. Well, I have to collect things. You know, this is I'm just so annoyed. And people looked at what the developers were doing, and they say, okay, they have a cool little spin on it, but all of a sudden, we have become so fucking cynical, just ugly and cynical about the most mundane things. People complain about any fucking thing nowadays. You can't do. I would have hated to be a developer. Like, let's be real. I would have completely hated to become. Yo, what's going on, Jerk Chicken? I would have completely hated to become a developer nowadays because of the type of shit that people complain about. Motherfuckers complain about one frame a second drops. That's another problem. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers are looking at a skill tree automatically is written off. You know what I'm saying? You know, automatically is written off. But it's funny too, because I forgot Elden Ring doesn't have a skill tree. But it does have side quests. Awesome. You know, it has very rudimentary platforming. You know what I'm saying? But it has all of your it has your save points, which would be like the grace, which would be considered campfires. You even have your fucking bandit camps. There's places in Elden Ring where you have a group of people that stand in there and you have to take them the fuck down. And yet the game didn't get criticized, right? Because the skin was different. The skin was different. Which to me is like stupid to me. That's like so dumb. So fucking dumb. And it pisses me off. You know? It's a shame that people are so cynical. Instead of enjoying their games, people are like stupid cynical. Complain about every fucking thing. Another thing too, open world games typically have a very loose narrative, right? And it's loose because people, including journalists, wanted to have the freedom to, since it's open, to do what you wanted to do, to go anywhere that you wanted to go. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be like Grand Theft Auto popularized this shit. You don't have to stick with that one person. Because I guess the side quests and shit like that were the different people in Grand Theft Auto. Like in GTA 3, that's the most thing that I can remember because I love the game a lot. You could speak to Joey, you could speak to Luigi. Luigi's missions were actually the main missions, and Joey's was side quests, and then you had extra like smaller side quests when you had to do these missions with Diablo and stuff like that. You know, very rudimentary shit. But the storyline in Rockstar games are really focused, but for all the other ones, it's like I don't want to have a focused storyline because I want the player to have freedom, and that's fine. You can have the fucking freedom, and that's fine. That's good. That's well and dandy. But you can only craft a certain storyline. You can't just do what you want to do in that type of open world game unless you make it linear. Now, if someone makes it linear, then the journalist will sit there and say, I don't like this game. I don't like it. I don't like it because it's linear. I don't have the freedom to do what I want to do. So it's like, okay, well, what the fuck do I do? Also, when it comes to level design, that's another thing too that people have an issue with open world games is that it doesn't feel designed. Now, I will say this about Ubisoft games. I absolutely will say this shit because it's legit. The way that they do linear games, the way that they do their open world games is that they create the lay of the land, roughly. You know, some mountains, some rivers and shit like that. And they literally have how do they put it? Almost like Lego blocks that they could stamp whatever in a certain area. A town here, it'll be already pre-made, fabricated, and then you have and it gives the illusion that it doesn't feel real. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't feel. How can I put it? It doesn't feel organic. And that's one of the things that Elden Ring was prized for. Like when you play Elden Ring, right? You have a big mass in the middle of the map, right? That you can go to. But then you start realizing the game starts to have like these spider arms, essentially, right? If you start leaving that big mass in the center, it starts to become semi-linear and it starts to be a crafted experience. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that the mass in the middle isn't a crafted experience, it is, but it's crafted in such a way for it to be open. But if you start to venture out to different towns, it starts to become linear. It starts to become, you fall off cliffs, you know what I mean, or oceans and shit like that. And it becomes a linear game. Now there's a lot of space to cover, and there's no order to do things. And to be honest with you, let's be honest. Open world games have a certain way of telling a story, and it is super conducive to From Software games. They don't have to make a story that people could either understand or will be in your face. They just could be as cryptic as they want to be and leave you to interpret what it is. They have a story in mind, but maybe they don't know how to tell it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking to myself, because it's always the same thing with the exclusion of Bloodborne. There's always these cryptic people with a specific personality. They all usually have the same personality. You have the opposite guy, the opposite guys. People that look like they're noble and clean, they're usually evil, and people that look decrepit and malformed, they're usually the good guys. Same shit all the time. You know what I mean? Then you have the shifty guy, and he'll tell you lies, and he's not to be trusted. And it's always the same type of formula, whether you play Elden Ring or you played the Dark Souls games. And it was like that with the Bloodborne, although Bloodborne's story was much more in your face. But it's weird, because with all the freedom that people complain about, everybody complains about having freedom. They want freedom so bad they want freedom, right? Turns out you don't really want freedom. You know what I mean? And this is the reason why there's a formula. This is a clear reason why there's a formula when it comes to open world games, because typically people don't know what to do. In the ideal world of a From Software game, you would look towards people leaving notes. And their struggle would be, their struggle would allow for them to leave notes and feel for the other people that's struggling with the game. So secrets that's in the game, such as the wall that's in the round table area, where you have to beat that shit like 28 times before it breaks. There was a note on the floor that stated that was a hidden wall. And I hit it once and it didn't work, but I thought it was trolling. So I just went on my merry way. But there's a note on there for everybody to see where you can repeat. It's a breakable wall. But the game would have felt so much better if the internet and people writing that shit down in the wiki, and if From Software would deviate to something different. I was looking as I was on the phone. I was looking at the shit, right? And it was like, we have something to learn. AAA games have something to learn from Elden Ring. No, not really. The one thing that it is a teaching lesson too is make whatever the fuck you want to make to your heart's content. The problem here is that open world games are always going to be criticized unless a AA developer makes it, such as From Software or Nintendo, for instance, because it's always okay to root for the good, the what do you call it? The underdog. This is what this narrative comes into Devil Shooter. It's the narrative of AAA games being extremely corporate. That's what's happening here. Yo, you want to speak? What's going on, bro? Let me see. Oh, let me see. If you want to jump in there, look. Let me invite you to speak. This is gonna be a short day because ain't that much discourse in this bitch. But Feel free to jump in. I will say this. That's what it boils down to. It's the narrative of, AAA games being corporate and they don't give a fuck about you or anybody else. They're just there to do microtransactions, and that's the narrative there. So God forbid you actually make a game with all your heart and try to put in all these details, and you just so happen to have the budget to do it, right? You instantly get shunned for having a budget, apparently. And that's what's going on. Nintendo, with their budget, made Breath of the Wild, and it's on that lesser hardware. And everybody was like, this is how you do things. And it's not that there was such a, how can I put it? It's not so that it's a design decision. It could very well be a budget decision. Why are there no lip syncs in Elden Ring or Zelda? One could argue we don't need that. Why you gotta have all that money just to do that, right? It's all about the gameplay. What about the graphics? What's all about the art style? What about the glitches? I mean, it's the charm of the game. In Elden Ring, you can't swim. It wouldn't have been nice, right, if they were to have been given a budget, that they kind of still had the esoteric way about them, but then actually have like the towns, like real towns with people in there instead of people that you can kill. You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't it have been nice to have that area and you could talk to people and organically have side quests with them, and you know what town it is instead of them just being out in the wilderness, just fucking chilling? Wouldn't it have been nice? Wouldn't it have been nice if your character can climb mountains and had the same stamina, just like Zelda? You know what I mean? And you can get to these hard to reach places if you could just climb. Wouldn't it have been nice instead of you having a magical fucking horse, you'd actually fly a fucking dragon? It's been what, 10 years? Wouldn't that, like for real, like, wouldn't that have been nice in Elden Ring to fly a fucking dragon and actually have like flight controls and you have like this dog fight of dragons? Wouldn't that have been revolutionary? Wouldn't that have been nice? Why just take the Souls experience and just be like, I don't want anything else? Why not really push the envelope? Now you sold 12 million copies. Wouldn't it have been nice to climb and swim and have underwater levels? Like, yeah, it's nice to see that golden tree and some of the art style, but wouldn't it have been nice to see an aquatic area and have water combat? You know what I mean? That's different from even fucking Monster Hunter switched it up a little bit. I mean, wouldn't that been nice? Am I crazy for wanting more? Am I crazy for wanting them to push themselves instead of just social justicing, underdogs and just shitting on people that have money and developers that have money and high budgets just to say that, oh, I'm fighting a machine? I don't understand this. It's like always the Ubisoft. It's a Ubisoft game, just belittled. It is. I got into it with this one dude that was from Ubisoft, and he sat there and was like, "Oh, it's nothing negative. Get the fuck out of here!" Every time you hear Ubisoft game, you instantly say that shit's fucking negative, man. Nobody want to be called a Ubisoft game. Ain't no motherfucking body want to be called a Ubisoft game. But here we are, It's unfortunate, that these narratives are being pushed, because people want to be on the right side of history, right? That's what this is. This is what this is all about. I'm tired of open world games. Unless it's my favorite open world game is what's happening. Now we better switch the gears to, speaking of outrage, right? It's microtransactions. So one of the things I'm going to talk about is actually Battlefield. Battlefield 2042 cost. Right? There's a reason why I'm mentioning this, right? The game was a $60 game and it had no single player whatsoever, right? And guess what? If it wasn't for the bugs, right? People were they would have it would have been a pretty decent game. You know what I mean? It would have been a decent game. But the bugs actually, no scoreboard. I was like, what the fuck? There's no scoreboard in fucking Battlefield? But people actually spent $59.99 for a game that didn't have multiplayer, right? And what I want to do here, in many ways, From Software did push themselves, but pushing for more would have been nice. Maybe their own game. I remember their next game. I see what you're saying. But I mean, honestly, going back to From Software, like I really do. That's what it made me feel. At least change the animations. You know what I'm saying? At least change the animations. That's what I would have. That's what I would have. That's what I would have liked. It would have at least made it feel like I was getting something different. You reuse bosses and animations. You got a different skin. Like, come on, bro. That's not what we should be pushing. Not at all. And people don't like to hear that shit, yo, because you know what it is? The community is just so damn good with the Souls games. Because everybody suffered, you know what I'm saying? So people are more inclined to kind of like help you through the suffrage, you know? But going back to microtransactions, right? There has been an outrage about Gran Turismo being infested with microtransactions. Absolute infestation. You charge me $60/$70 for a game that's supposed to be complete. But you know what? I said this last week. It's always this narrative with Sony. It's always this narrative with Sony, right? Not to sound like a fanboy, but let's start calling a spade a spade. The scrutiny that Sony is typically under is massive. It's a massive weight. That's what it is. Be real. People are upset about that shit, man. You know? Sony can do everything wrong and nothing right. Even when they do something right, it's still a fucking problem. Still a problem. So that's the problem. EA released Battlefield 2042 and decided to omit the single player, right? And then charged you the same price as Gran Turismo with less quality, missing features. They had a beta and almost fixed nothing when it was released. And sure, people were having fun with it for a time, and they realized, no. People don't want to deal with it. But going based off of, how come there was no outcry for Battlefield 2042? The only time it really affected people, and it wasn't like the state that Battlefield was in when it launched, it didn't get anywhere close to the scrutiny that was Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo had a catastrophic glitch in their patch. And they let everybody know, like, no one was expecting it. And there's usually, especially my IT background, there's no typical ETA fix because you don't know where it's stemming from. But people made up their own narrative when it comes to the microtransactions because they just want Sony to do something wrong so bad. They want them to slip the fuck up. Please slip the fuck up just once. So I can blast your ass. And there's no real reason for them to have so much vitriol for that company, because ultimately they're trying their best to have the quality. They're trying their best, and they can't slip up. And you would like to tell people, hey, look, just do you. Don't even worry about the haters. But the haters are so loud. And people want a click or a like, and they want a social justice. The same thing what happened with Cuties, right? On Netflix. People was like, I don't want to pay for that. I'm unsubscribing. Dave Chappelle comes out, I'm subscribing. You know what I'm saying? People ain't really about it. When it comes to this shit, they don't give a fuck. They're doing it for clout. All this fucking concern thing. But here's the thing. EA stated that they were going to flat out not have a single player component. That's what they told everybody. And you know who else did that? Polyphony Digital. They straight up said that it has to be online all the time. Because the federation that we work with, which is the FIA, requires it. It requires online for the cheaters. Since this is really considered an esport, now we got to be about it. Now we got to be about it. For sure. And you get to this point, it's sad because people bought Gran Turismo knowing this. And the second that it goes down, because it's an online only, you know what I mean? The second that it goes down, people are shocked. Huh? What happened to my game? Huh? Nigga, they already said it. This is an always connected game. And the funny thing about this shit is this too. All of Microsoft games requires an internet connection. And that shit slipped completely under the radar. You know why? Because Microsoft in the console space is considered the underdog. And everybody wants the social justice. They want the social justice real bad. They want to be right so they can get clicks somewhere. That's what it boils down to. Be real. Same reason why the success of Elden Ring was what it was is because everybody wanted to buck the trend of high budget games. And little old Horizon Forbidden West had nothing to fucking do with it. They tried their best. There ain't no microtransactions in that bitch. They is the utmost fucking quality as you can possibly get in a linear and open world game. And people are seeing this type of technical prowess and storyline and skipping all of the fucking cutscenes, putting the game on easy so they can hurry up and beat the shit, and then claim there's no story to Horizon. This game is too easy. What? Going back to Gran Turismo, right? Here's the situation with Gran Turismo. Yamauchi created this is his ultimate Final Form vision. He loves cars so fucking much that he wants to build the culture of cars. And remember, it plummeted. And the reason why it plummeted is because the next generation doesn't really fuck with cars like that. They don't even fucking go out, nor do they give a fuck. Not only that, but there's a push for electric cars because of emissions and shit like that. No one cares about cars like in my day, back in the early 2000s, where everybody had the little rice burners and shit like that, right? So Yamauchi wants to build that passion up again. You feel me? They want that passion. And they're tying it to the real value of the car itself, right? So that's why the crazy inflation ended up happening with some of the cars, where it appears that you would need $40 to buy it. Now, do you have to spend $40 to buy it? You could, but I want to explain something to you. And that Solid Rev, he ended up saying that shit. This nigga has 1 million credits. Has all these games, playing Elden Ring, playing Horizon Forbidden West, playing Gran Turismo, and all that shit, and he still managed to get 1 million fucking credits. The car is $1.5 million or 1 million credits. I myself ended up getting 800, I think 1 million myself. They were giving out these credits so just freely that you could have just bought everything. And I'm not saying, here's the thing, right? I'm not mad at the fact that somebody's trying to get their money. That ain't the point. That ain't the point. You want to know what's really the point that I'm dealing with here is that they gave you a full-fledged game, complete with tuning, complete with fucking the aerodynamics, the heat of the roads, the weather transitions, the graphics of one of the highest caliber graphics you can possibly get, the complete UI, the history of all the cars. This dude is completely about his hobby. He loves fucking cars, and he drives and races these bitches. And you got to understand, back when YouTube came out, right? When YouTube first came out, back in, I think, 2008, I believe, 2007, 2008, you could put all sorts of things on YouTube. Murders, you could put on there. You could just whole fucking albums you can upload. And there was no restrictions because no one knew how to handle what YouTube was. When people start really seeing the views of the legal stuff, that is, they was like, yo, especially Nintendo, but they were like, yo, you profiting off my name? Nah, nigga. Nah, I need you to correct this shit all the way. Pay me or take it the fuck off your platform. So then Google had to do what they had to do. Now you can't play shit. You can't even fucking sing close to the fucking song without Google blocking that whole fucking shit. You better not have 1 second of a fucking song that's not yours. And sometimes that doesn't even fucking matter. Right? They are, with Gran Turismo and Polyphony Digital, they are working with Brembo, they're working with Michelin Tires, Porsche, all those fucking people that want them eyes. They want that shit. And they're like leveraging. If you want that shit, you gotta pay us more money. Because without our car, you won't have fucking shit for a game. You got them physics. But what about the people who want to drive a Porsche or a Lambo or a 400Z or an Acura? I'm going to need you to pay the fuck up. How do you think they're getting that money? Oh, so would you want Sony to pony it up, right? Well, guess what? What if they're asking prices way disproportionate to what it is worth? What about that? For especially NFTs that's coming out now. So keep an eye out for them NFTs, man. Because I think that's where Sony is trying to go to, low key, high key, but low key, but high key. They're doing that NFT shit where it only be you that has that specific car. And it's not just Sony, these corporations, they want a one world currency is what they want. But that's a whole other topic. But going back to Gran Turismo, right? Do you think it's free to have a Porsche in there? You think it's just advertising? You think that's what it is? To get notoriety? Why do you think there's no damage in these fucking cars? They don't want to see their car in a fucked up light, period. That's their rules and regulations. And it's funny when you see reviews that sit there and say there's no damage in there, and everybody fucking knows the information. Everybody should know this shit. The reason why Gran Turismo, they just blanketed just scratches and small dents. Because when they try to do that shit in Gran Turismo 5, some cars can get fucked up and the doors can become unhinged. Others could barely get a fucking scratch. That's inconsistent. There's inconsistencies, and they didn't want that for a product. So every car gets the same type of damage. Now, the game is called a real driving simulator, not a racing simulator as well. I just want to, as a side note, by the way, real driving simulators, driving and racing is different. What you and I do when we go to work, that shit's driving. So all the realistic eye racing and fucking Assetto Corsa, and all those other fucking games, they're racing games, like legit. We have to manage tire pressure and tire rubber that's on the fucking street, and and water, and the engine could get fucked up, and you gotta, aerodynamics get affected by it. That's racing. Driving is something different. So the way that Gran Turismo plays, it's a simulator, but it's simulating the driving experience. The spirited driving. That's the end of my fucking rant for that one. But going back to the logistics of making a racing game. That's why when the licenses run out, they can't even have it for download anymore. I guarantee you, one of the reasons why they have microtransactions in the first place and this crazy ass like currency, I guarantee you what's going on is that these fucking people are like, yo, if you want our shit in your game, then you're gonna have to pay the fuck up. And there's the only way to recoup it. It's an ugly, ugly fucking world out there, my dudes. Let's not get it fucked up. People see the value and they want that money anyway. They don't even want the advertising rights. They be like, yo, for each copy, I want to cut. That's what I want. And they got to make their money somewhere. Am I condoning it? No. Absolutely. I'm just trying to understand it. It's what I'm trying to do. The single player needs to be fully fledged. And I think that's part of the agreement when you look at shit, right? When you look at the agreement, I guarantee you, when it comes to single player, this is not about just cheating. This is about profiting off of the fucking game without it being online. They have to go to full demo mode. And I really wish, honestly, I wish there was more transparency with these developers. They need to put these motherfuckers on blast about the intricacies. And maybe that's an NDA disclosure. Maybe they can't do it. But somebody needs a whistle blow, for sure. Because I guarantee you that's what's going on there. Oh, you're going to basically profit off my fucking license and not pay up? I need to have proof that people are buying my fucking shit. I need to have fucking proof. And it being offline ain't giving me the fucking proof that I need. I need to see who's driving what, when, where, or why, so I can calibrate what I'm asking for and negotiate. I guarantee you that's the shit that's going on now. And it just leads to this microtransaction talk in general, not just Gran Turismo, but I wanted to kind of point out there what's really happening in these streets when it comes to, microtransactions. Inherently, I don't see a problem with providing an avenue. I don't see a problem. I don't. You know where I see a problem? Is these fucking social justice people complaining like a motherfucker for shit that they would have probably never picked the fuck up. They probably would have never lifted a motherfucking finger to pick the shit up. Never. I guarantee you. And you know what's funny too? I guarantee you these motherfuckers probably have the fucking PS4 version. Not the PS5, but the PS4 version. I don't see a problem with providing an avenue. I don't see a problem. I don't. You know where I see a problem? Just making sure I'm sounding okay. I should probably stop chewing the way I am. Said some ASMR. But I don't see a problem with people getting their money. I do feel, honestly, I feel like Jemiah peeked in there. Go on, Jemiah. I honestly feel, truthfully, according to my racing friends, Forza had microtransactions for years and not a word. They did complain, by the way. They complained about that shit. Don't get that shit fucked up. They did. The reviewers complained, but not the actual people. You know? So I'm not gonna get mad at them. I feel like Jemiah peeked in here. This is the most sensitive fucking mic I've ever heard. I mean, grapes, and that shit sound like I'm eating chips. Crazy. My bad. But I will say this, though. I don't, like, if that's your hustle, you know what I'm saying? If that's your hustle, do you. I feel like people should have a choice. And all this talk about having people's hand held, right? That's the talk of the town, right? Having my hand held all the time. What's going on, Jemiah? But that's the talk of the town, right? Is having your hand held. That being said, you should be able to, as a full-on adult, choose if you want to earn your credits in Gran Turismo versus if you wanted to buy it for your own rights. And nobody should be able to tell you a motherfucking thing about that shit. No one should. No one should get mad at the fact that you want to purchase your shit. Because it happens all the time. It's like the whole moral high ground. People are upset about what are people upset about? They're upset about what is it? These motherfuckers are actually upset about paying $70 or $60, whatever the cost is, and then paying microtransactions. So the fuck, why do you? Do you? Why are you in my fucking pockets? That should be crazy to me. That shit is fucking crazy. And shout out to Jemiah, because Jemiah is the one that gave me this idea in the first place. Jemiah, I mentioned about Battlefield, by the way. What's going on, bro?
Chilling.
I mentioned about Battlefield, and I just realized that Battlefield didn't even fucking have a single player. And was charging people $60 fucking dollars. We were talking about Gran Turismo, by the way, and it's microtransactions. Straight up, they sat there and didn't really complain about it. The only real complaints that you got, even though you paid $60, is that it was glitchy. And then everybody swept that under the fucking rug. Like, can you tell me what you were telling me yesterday about you know, how you feel about Gran Turismo and its microtransactions?
Like I said, I don't think it's a big deal. I looked at the like the credits per racing shit. You know what I mean? And like I was looking at Strictly's joint, they give you enough credits and free cars throughout the game that you don't need to buy these microtransactions. You know what I mean?
Like, it's crazy. Like, it's so crazy, bro. Like, what's his name? Solid Rev? He said he got 1 million fucking credits. And you know this motherfucker's playing Xbox and he's playing fucking Elden Ring and Horizon, and he still managed to get under a month, right? 1 million fucking credits. Now, I will say, and I was just saying before, I guarantee you there's a lot of different like layers to this shit. I guarantee you, like, some of these brands, these name brand cars and engines and you know, and tires, I guarantee you they got some stipulations. Because it's not just, okay, you're getting free advertisement, man. You're breaking up there. I don't know what's going on with your connection.
You
there? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah, like didn't they say that like they wanted to balance the credits so like it reflects more like the real world cost of the cars and shit.
Certain I said that earlier, yeah.
They wanted to get rid of some glitch that like had like them people like just farming just certain races so you can actually like play the game and do different races and shit and different challenges to actually get the credits the correct way.
Right.
I don't. I mean, I don't really get it, because like I said, like everything you want, you can just get it through the game. You don't have to even buy any microtransactions. I think it's people making a big deal about it. It's for no reason. Like it all started with that article about the GT Sport cars versus the GT7 cars. When the buying process is like completely different. You know what I mean? So like,
right.
I think the journalists started the push first for this type of bullshit, and then like all the people just fell in line and started complaining about everything. And then this 30-hour outage just allowed people just to slither the game and go on fucking user sites and like give it a bad user score and shit. So like, I just think like the journalists are pushing gamers in directions and shit, and then the gamers just fall in line and complaining about stupid shit.
Yeah, that's my sentiment exactly as well. I guarantee you. And that's what I was saying before. You mentioned something before, and this is what this whole discussion, or my own self discussion at this point in time, was having. They already told you off rip. Now let's go to Battlefield 2042. They told you off rip that there's no single player. Off rip. And it was up to you to decide if you wanted to buy that $60 game or not. We've already known through sport and through the state of play and through the fucking just in general previews that there was the online is going to be tied. I mean, the single player, the whole game is going to be tied online. And then everybody went into an outrage. This is what I was saying. The shit is disproportionate in terms of the outrage that people have versus what's really happening. It's the Sony effect, man. It's like people don't like, when you are successful. It's not necessarily a Sony thing. It's just being successful is really what it is. People are not feeling the whole success thing at all. That's what it boils down to. And they are rooting for the underdogs. That's why certain games can get a pass and other games cannot. It's crazy that people are making these. It's just like Sony can't just do anything. They're looking for Sony to do some wrong thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the quality is warranted. I don't like the fact that like, oh, Gran Turismo has never been like this. Well, it's fucking 25 years ago. What is the same 25 years ago? From 25 years ago. There's a lot of different things. Like I said, you were able to do a whole bunch of shit on YouTube and there were no fucking commercials. But now we got commercials fucking galore. And you can't play shit that's not yours on YouTube. It's just
GT, when it first came out, before it came out, they told you it was going to be always online. They told you plenty of times, yes, data plays, all that shit. That told people about it being online and shit. And people bought it, and then all of a sudden it became a problem for no reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the funny thing. That's the funny thing, man. It's all of a sudden a fucking problem, man. It's full of shit, really. The whole shit is full of shit. Put it that way. It's bullshit because all it is people that's trying to capitalize on being right or social media clout. That's what it is. It's not necessarily a Sony thing, but it's definitely like they want to find something to be outraged about. You know what I'm saying? And if you're popular, I want to tear it the fuck down. That's what it boils down to. I don't want you to be successful. I want to tear it down. Whatever your success is, I'm gonna fuck it up. It's really what it boils down to. And that's unfortunate. But you made a case, you know what I'm saying? Like it was such a poignant case when you were like, yo, they already told you and you still bought it. And then you shocked Pikachu face when you, you have to be online, and in terms of the outage, shit happens. Not not everything is fucking perfect. Shit happens.
Well, I used to play World of Warcraft back in the day for like 5 years, and they would have maintenance like every Tuesday. They would have maintenance on the servers at a certain time. Sometimes they would come back up, but within the hour. And sometimes they would it would be down for like fucking almost a day. You know what I mean? Just problems with the fucking updates and shit. So I just find it disingenuous that people are now like shocked that like online games go down. You know what I mean? Like how many times has the Xbox Live went down or the PSN went down and people couldn't play for hours? Like I don't understand how this is any different. You know what I mean?
Damn, I
Now
didn't
it's
even think
like
about that shit.
somebody wants to have an offline mode or some shit. It's like, come on, stop it, bro. Like, you know, this game is a service based game, and you know how games as a service work, but like nobody seems to understand that when it comes to Gran Turismo. And also, they want an offline mode. I mean, this is how it used to be back in the day. Like you said, like this is 2022, bro. Like this is an online game. They don't want people cheating fucking cars and shit. They don't want people cheating parts, and they want to see what you're doing. You know what I mean? When you play the game, you have an offline mode. I guess it's an arcade, but it's like very like minimal. You know what I mean?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Then just play that then, like I don't, or play your backlog, or whatever these people claim to have. You know what I mean?
No, but you hit the nail on the head when fucking PSN goes down and shit like that, especially Xbox. That's what I was saying before. This shit is disingenuous as fuck. Because Xbox, you need an online internet connection to play any of your fucking games. No one brings that the fuck up for some reason. That's very interesting. But let's say that wasn't a particular problem, right? Most people play a lot of shit online, and when PSN or Xbox Live go down, you ain't playing those fucking games. Period. People play fucking Fortnite when the shit goes down, and you know what I mean? It's like, it's weird because for a free-to-play game, most people sunk way past $60, $70, right? Unapologetically. And they seem to know the rules of engagement, but all these fucking journalists and shit like that, you know what I mean? Playing PS4 games and talking about something, I notice glitches and frame rate drops and shit like that, and they don't even have the right fucking one. The whole shit's bullshit. Like, across the board, the whole shit is bullshit. And, you know, at least they ain't fooling me, and I'm glad people like Pyro said that shit too, yo. He was like, it's just so middle-aged thing. Shut up. Shut up. Ain't nobody told you to be a fanatic when it comes to PlayStation, biting fucking cards and biting fucking jewel cases and shit like that and ripping them the shit off. Ain't nobody fucking told you to do that shit. That's on you. You's a grown-ass man doing shit for clout. Yo, you another one.
No, I think Pio is actually genuine. Like,
I mean,
I think he's naive, and I think he's like a little naive in the way he kind of like fell into the trap. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I gotta give you that. I do sense, you know, it's not any malice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's not malicious, but I think he just got caught up in the hype of his offline mode. Like, what are you gonna do in offline mode, though?
I mean, you fucking getting raised.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. Like, you say you want an offline mode, but like, what are you really gonna do in this offline mode? You know what I mean?
Well, they want to accrue credits and continue on their progression. You know what I mean?
But would it be fair if somebody was offline cheating cars and getting all this money, and also they came online, they're just dominating all the fucking, you know, scores and user boards, scoreboards and all that shit, because they have all these, you know, cheap cars and souped up engines and shit like that. Like, like when you buy a game as a service, you gotta expect this type of thing. I just don't understand how you can go into this and then be all naive about like, oh, I didn't know that it was always online. And I think the crux of the whole thing is it's $70. I keep seeing that shit. Like, you have microtransactions in a $7 game. I think that's the biggest crux of people trying to complain. Like, what are you supposed to give out the cars for free because you give them $70? Then there's no challenge in the game. There's no point of playing the game if it's gonna have all the cards available at the beginning. Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, what kills me about it is that we all know that these fucking publishers are these people that create these cars, the manufacturers and stuff like that. You know damn well they're not just giving up their fucking the image of the fucking car willingly. You know what I mean? It's not just free publicity, because they know like ain't no regular fucking Gran Turismo player is gonna have enough money for a fucking Lamborghini. So you're not advertising to them. So what they're doing is saying straight up, listen, Polyphony Digital / Sony, if you want to use our cars, you're going to have to pay the fuck up for our license. That's what's happening. And it's beyond the $60, $70 mark as well. You know what I mean? So they're going to have to recoup their money in some different ways. Like, people are like, I've never seen so many children in this particular case. It's like they don't fucking know the rules of engagement in the world. They don't fucking get it. You know what I mean? They don't get it. And it's like, it's way more moving parts than what you are claiming to be. Like, let's not be fucking naive here. You know damn well there's a lot more shit going on than just that. Let's be, and not J-Tech either. It's Pyro. The dude name's Pyro, the white dude. But let's be real here. Like, these motherfuckers are so, like you said before, you hit the nail on the head. They're fucking disingenuous. That's what it boils down to. You want to find a complaint. You want to complain about something. It's really what it boils down to. You want to complain about something so you can get that clout online. And like you said, and I miscalculated with that one. You know, Pyro has definitely got caught up, just like people with Elden Ring got caught up saying that, oh, it's not holding my hand. But then you go to the fucking community and then get a tutorial. Like,
Facts.
bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you don't know whose side quest is what. And that's why they changed the shit. That's why they put a patch in that bitch. Because you could talk to somebody along the way, right? Travel while you're farming and shit like that. And totally forget about that fucking thing because you can't see if the quest is open or fucking closed. You know what I'm saying? That requires you to have a notepad or something similar to what Ubisoft has done, or, you know, to make it work. At least put it on a fucking map. You know what I'm saying? And that's why they changed it. Now people calling it. I was talking to my friend, which is a big Souls person. They're going to call that shit a what do you call it? A bitch mode. And I'm like, bitch mode because you indicating who you fucking spoke to because you have no other way of indicating other than you gotta buy a pen and paper. Word. For real.
I mean, also with Gran Turismo, I find it funny that nobody was mad that it was always online until that shit went offline. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
Like, when people bought the game in the weeks prior, like the days prior to this, nobody said anything about it being online. Like, nobody was like, oh, this shit's always online. So people were enjoying the game. They were playing the game online. They had their PSN shit set up. But the moment it went down, that's when it became a problem. So if it never went down, this probably would have never even came up. You know what I mean? Like,
no, what ended up happening was
it seemed like people were shocked, like the shit was always online. Like, they just found out, like, you know, after it went down, like they're like, "Oh, this is always online. What's going on?" Like, didn't you not watch the state of plays and shit like that? Like I said, were you not informed?
No, but the thing is that the reviewers, because they were looking for a reason to, like, they doing it with the Harry Potter thing, by the way, which I'll talk about in a second. The reviewers already preemptively started creating the narrative about the fucking microtransactions. They already started that shit. You know what I'm saying? They were already on it, knowing that this could be a way for them to get likes and shit like that. So they were about it. They were already about it. You know what I'm saying? And the funny thing that I find with people is that when the majority, or when a loud minority, I should say, is saying something so loud that the majority start to believe it. They start to believe it. People were complaining about it until, like, the journalists start saying shit, you know, and hurry. Like, what's his name? Tom Warren or whatever, Tim or whatever the fuck that nigga's name is. He was saying some bullshit, whatever the case is still. Like, I get it. People are thinking about the old Gran Turismos, but it's been creeping up to that one. And instead of complaining about just how games were in general or how, you know, the turn of it, like, gaming, as you always say, is an expensive fucking hobby. You want to sit there and talk about, you know, you want to sit there and talk about how, you know, you don't want to pay for this and that, man. Just stick to free to play and just get and then grind. If you don't have enough money for the shit, yo, it just boils down to that. Hate to say that, but that's what it is. It's unfortunate. What I wanted to get your take on is this, right? Because I mentioned something before we close shop or whatever the case is. I mentioned Elden Ring. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if they added a climbing mechanic so you can actually explore? You know what I mean? Or an underwater, like everyone talks about the art. Wouldn't it be cool if they had like an underwater section, you know? or the fact that you can probably ride, dragons, or actually had town people where they're actually talking to, they're talking amongst each other and stuff like that. And not everybody being decrepit, or you have one lone fucking NPC character. Like, what's your thoughts on the progression of a Souls game?
Like I always say, I kind of give Souls games a pass a little bit because they're their own genre of games. So the community itself has always allowed this type of bullshit. So like this whole like reading lore from like these little ass fucking notes and shit, and the atmosphere being the real like story and shit like that. So like people have always given Souls games a pass for not having any real story or quest systems and shit. Just the whole like Bloodborne, the atmosphere is just so amazing, and all this nonsense that people use to like give the game a pass. So they kind of did it to themselves in that sense. You know what I mean? Like the Souls games have always been given room to be what they are and not been told like they have to progress, you know what I'm saying? Because they kind of like they're in their own lane, you know what I mean? So they're gonna determine what happens in that lane. So in that sense, they get a pass because people have allowed Souls games, like I said, to be like this whole entire time with little notes and shit, and the atmosphere being a story, no real like story whatsoever. Even though people claim that there's some crazy stories and lore in the game, but in other games, when you got to go look for it or look it up or shit like that, like Destiny and shit like that, I did all the lore, like in those little cards and shit. People were pissed off and shit. But when it comes to Souls games, it seems like nobody cares. You know what I mean? Because I guess the draw is just the gameplay. Really, is the biggest draw of the thing. But like, I don't think it's right that people seem to like make up their own like lore and story shit for games when you just read into shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say that you're right. They did build themselves. They did, back themselves into a corner when it comes to that shit, because now, I think what was happening is, this is a war on double, AAA games. That's what this is. This is a war on AAA games. I think inherently, if your budget seemingly is high, you automatically get crucified. There's no reason why a AA game is getting as much praise with that many flaws than any other game. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's Horizon or anything else. It gets a pass because the budget isn't that big. That's what I think. And a lot of people will get pissed off about it because everybody's agreeing that Elden Ring is one of the best games of all time is what they're saying. And they want to be a part of that narrative. So like anybody that fucking, criticizes the game, they get mad. There was a couple people that was in the space that fucking left as soon as they started talking about Elden Ring. Get the fuck over it. People can have their fucking opinion. You'd be all right.
Like I say, even Luca's getting shit for her takes on Elden Ring when she's one of the biggest Souls fans of like all time. You know what I mean? And she's played I think she's platinum every Souls game basically there is from like Miyazaki and shit. So I don't understand why people can't critique the shit for what it is, and then people are trying to like give it passes. Like I said, the whole handholding thing, like. You need those quality of life things in the game, right? And people just try to give it a pass and try to, wish it away. And then if you say anything about it, people are trying to talk shit to you, even though they probably wanted those things in the game. You know what I mean?
It would have been definitely helpful. But the thing is, it's like they tricked themselves into believing that Elden Ring was something new and refreshing, which it is. And if you played the other Souls games, but furthermore, they were upset about. Who are they upset about? They were upset about what is it? The narrative of not having your handheld, even though they were getting the handheld by the community instead of the developers themselves. So when the developers kind of reneged on it, you have people like Chris Righteous was like, "Oh, somebody's going to make up this narrative to say that this was the proper way of doing things." No, it has nothing to do with being. It is the proper way of doing fucking things. How about that? You don't get a pass for half baking your fucking shit. It's half baked. Under the guise of we don't want you to, nigga, I paid for a fucking game. I want that shit to be complete. Why should I have to buy a notepad and pen? If you really were about it, why don't you have an in-game notepad where I could type my own fucking messages? You know what I mean? I could use the fucking the keypad and be like, this thing over here. You know what I mean? You didn't even do that. Why I gotta buy fucking shit? Why I gotta go on the Wikipedia and understand your own fucking game because you say that you wanted it to be secretive? There's secretive shit or hidden shit, like bonuses, and then there's like not even explaining how your fucking game works, and people just accept that shit. That's bullshit. Could you imagine? Yeah, go on.
No, I'm saying because every time they're always their responses. It's a Souls game. You know what I mean?
That's all they need to say. That's all I need to say is a Souls game.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Could you imagine Horizon Forbidden West? You couldn't even use your focus. You just got to figure out if it was fucking weak to fire or fucking frost. You had to figure that shit out through trial and error. What kind of game design is this? Any other game, they would have did that shit and they would have got crucified for that shit too. But it's a Souls game, right? What were you saying again? You broke up.
No, I was saying exactly because I think like when you design a game, most of the time when you put things on maps or you use certain things in the game, like where you can like scan or some shit, it's because these are certain things that the character should know in the game, even though you may not know it. You know what I mean? So if there's a landmark on the map, like this is the fucking waterfall of doom or some shit, if this character lives in this world, they know where the fucking waterfall is. You may not know it as a player and want to explore or whatever, but the character should know this. Like it's big on D&D, like is player knowledge and character knowledge. You know what I mean? So the maps are just guides of what the character already knows, and you can use the map if you want. Like Horizon, I probably open a map, maybe like mostly just to fast travel back to certain places, but I never really used the map to navigate the world. You know what I mean? Because I had to focus. I could just go in that direction. You feel me?
Right.
So I feel like the maps are used just to let the player know what the character knows and shit like that. And most instances and shit like that. And like in a Rolling Horizon where you have a focus and technology where you can like it can just guide you through the world. Why would you not know where this place is at? You know what I mean?
They said it was lazy. It's lazy development. That's what they said. It's lazy that you have to spell out your world the way that you spell it out. That's what they claim. It's lazy.
But like, do you not use GPS in the real world? Like, do you not use maps in the real world? Like this, like you may not know how to get to fucking certain place, but just general knowledge. You know what I mean? So you go on Google Maps or you use fucking GPS or whatever. That's how anybody navigates. Nobody just says, I might go to the grocery store and just walk outside and just keep walking until they find one. You know what I mean? Like, come on, like this makes no sense to me. You know what I mean?
Why are there signs in grocery stores and shit like that? Exactly. Like, why? Like for what?
Street signs and shit like that because the people just don't just walk outside and go exploring for shit. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
They're like Elden Ring. They don't tell you. They just let the game design guide you. No, the fuck it doesn't. You don't know where the fuck to go. I don't know where's the smithing place. You're a fucking liar. I don't know where. If I wanted to make a magic bill, I don't know where the fuck to go. I would have to find out, and then they'll say it's the spirit of adventuring. Shut up. Shut your ass up. Lying ass shit, yo. Like the same thing with the fucking hand holding, yo. They're bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. They know damn well they need somebody to tell them how to make an arcane build. Or they need somebody to tell them how to fucking make, you know what I mean? To make the fucking faith builds and shit like that. And so they won't waste their fucking resources on whatever the case is. They are copying builds. This is why people are just smearing these fucking bosses. They're not finding that shit out on their own.
Yeah, that's one setback, even outside of Elden Ring, is a lot of these like MMO type games or these like huge open world type games. people would just look at other people's builds and use those builds to play the game like that way. You know what I mean? So it's like it's not even like it doesn't. It stops making the experience unique to me. When there's so much vagueness of the game, you have to go online and look at these builds and then build into that build just to beat the game. You know what I mean? You should better use anything you want, go to the game blind, put together any combination of skills and weapons, and come out victorious. But most games, you got to have a certain play style or a certain type of build to beat it. And to me, that's not really unique or anything like that.
And you know what? Last thing before I close this shit out is someone said that Horizon was an easy game because it holds your hand on where to shoot and what the enemy is weak to. Thoughts on that?
Like I said, Alo has a focus. This is shit that she knows. She sees it with her focus. You know what I mean? So why wouldn't she know where to shoot at? And like most things, eyes are a weak point, headshots are a weak point, groins are a weak point. Like if a character has a bunch of armor on and there's no armor on his back, so every time he turns around it's open, that's the spot you're supposed to shoot at. If you have the visuals with this focus or whether it's just that character design, the game devs are going to show you the weak points in a certain way. You know what I mean? No matter what game it is. So I feel like that's a fucking irrelevant point. You know what I mean? Like, and in Souls games, most of the time you just swiping the niggas' legs anyway, so does it really matter? Like, you just hitting people's ankles and shit. Like, it's not like you can jump in the air and hit him in the head or jump off rocks and shit and, hit him in certain points or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think that argument is kind of like pointless in the whole.
Yes, sir, that's true. My friends had to use the meta builds to beat the harder bosses. It's so true. It's not a knock at the game. It has never been a knock at the game other than, what it boils down to. This is the knock that's happening, right? Is now it used to be the reviewers. Now it's the fucking Soul community. They are fucking irritating to me. They're fucking irritating. They had to play the game a way that they didn't want to play towards the end. And it's fucking true. You can't do what the fuck you wanted to do. You know what I mean? You couldn't. And I'm not knocking the fucking game, but when people claim that they're not having their hand held and you're just focused on, oh, well, I could just look at the fucking meta or I can go on a Wikipedia or I can ask my friend that plays Souls games all the time. You're fucking lying to yourself. Put it that way. But I'm going to wrap this shit up, man. Yo, Jemiah, thank you for dropping by, yo. I really appreciate this shit.
I know, bro. I just woke up like, oh, shit.
Yeah. I was at the mall and shit like that, buying some fucking some odds and ends and shit. And traffic was a fucking bitch, man. Like, it was this fucking this Beamer, yo, that was zipping back and forth. Yo, I was like, this nigga's gonna he's gonna wipe out and fuck somebody's car up. But we had to wait because it was crazy traffic and shit like that. So I got here. I was like 5 minutes late, whatever, to get everything started. Other than that, But yeah. If you have viewed, I'm on YouTube as well. That's also called Gamecast. You'll see like the controller in the background or whatever the case is. So I have that shit. Definitely, if you want to watch the whole podcast, you can watch it there. But thanks everybody for showing up. I really appreciate it.